Hello, it's Paul here, and I don't know if you can see this, but this is a start of a dual stage pump that I've been modeling, and I don't know if I'm going to get interrupted while I'm modeling it. I was thinking of showing how to model a pump impeller and make a quick video of that, but I'm not going to do anything this complicated at the moment. And by the way, happy Thanksgiving to anyone in the States at least. You know, Canada has theirs earlier, but for 2016, so there you go, trying to just find a quiet moment to do stuff. I know I haven't uploaded video in a good while, but it's because my main computer is still kind of kaput, so I'm using this laptop, which isn't bad, but I just can't do too much without interruptions. And put this in some other place to use it, so I'm just using it on the kitchen table, and there's always noise and interruptions, so yeah, whatever. But my main computer is kind of kaput, so I don't know, I think I'll just do a quick impeller like this one you see here. Not exactly this one. I'm just going to do a single stage. This is actually a dual stage. Did I say that? Because what I'm doing is there's a outer pump, and it rechannels it to the inner pump, and then that goes to the out. So this is a dual stage. I haven't quite figured out how to do the outer casing, so complicated, I know. But I figured I'll do the impeller and make a video on it real quick, or relatively quick, and see how that goes. So let's start a new one. Startup file. So how do we make the impeller? We don't need the cube here. What we want is a cylinder, or a mesh cylinder. And if you look over on the left, there's a vertex count, and usually think about how many fins I want inside the impeller. Sometimes 6, sometimes 4, depending on what you want to do. Less fins is probably better for, what do you say, less fins is better if you're working with liquid that's going to have chunky stuff in it, or water that's not exactly clean, and there's probably a certain threshold where more becomes more efficient, but too many, it kind of isn't good either. So I usually do somewhere between 4 and 6 is the usual, so that's just for modeling these things. And real ones are usually pretty simple too. They'll have maybe more like 8 or something, but they're big. But for most cases, 4 is fine. But I'm going to do a 5-fin one, so I'm going to start out with a multiple of 5. So let's say 5 times 6 if you look over in the vertex panel on your left. And it should give me enough edges to work with, so that's fine here. And I'm going to turn on that panel too. I don't know if I'll need it. Make sure my cursor is centered. Should be. And my transforms, and they should be good. So now I can go into edit mode. Wonder why is he doing all that with the cylinder? Who knows? Actually, I do know. So I can do this. Alright. And also another thing. I'll get to it when I get to it. I'll leave this part a little chunky here. And I usually turn off the handles to get in my way. I use the hotkeys. I'm not going to go over all the hotkeys while I'm doing this, so and I can have screencast keys, but I haven't figured out where the plugin is and all that, so not going to worry about it. So how do you do this? Basically what I am thinking of is the thickness. I want the backing plate of the impeller to be. It's not too hard. It actually goes pretty quick if you keep it simple. It's like the impeller has a backside here, like so, and there'll be fins. Actually, I can make it thinner here. You have to think about like what material it would be made out of or 3D printed from. Pardon me. In order to consider what thickness to use. I'm just eyeballing it here. And I am adding more cuts to it, so the transition will be smoother. So, and this is the start of the impeller. Actually, I didn't do it on the back side. Okay. I was going to say, did I do it on the back side? Because I don't need all that stuff on the back. You have to think about where our fins are. So, I'm going to have, what, 6 fins here. Actually 5. I said 5, didn't I? Yeah. 1. And that's why I did a multiple, because then I'll have even spaces of things between them. Alright, that's what, 30? So, trying to think. I will tell you the little shortcut I'm doing is I'm shift selecting and then control selecting to get those continuous. That's how I do it fast. Is it possible you learn the shortcuts to save time? It's the workflow thing. Yeah, I'm just gonna do a five veins in this one. Oops. Well, undo works with selections too. I didn't realize that earlier, but it does. Here. Alright. So that will be 5 here, 5 there, and I want to add control loops to that yet. I don't know. That'll be fine. Ideally, you'd even up the thickness of it, so I'm trying to think of how I should do that. I'm going to just make this a vertex group so I can select it. So I'm going to assign those to a vertex group, and that way I can select all that stuff again. And what am I going to do here? Thinking I'm going to add an extra set of edges, and yeah, I'm going to do that. You can see where it's working, and it's just faster. I know it's probably not the most ideal way of doing it, but working as I go along here. This one isn't split in half yet. And what I want to do is, oops, take these little edge loopies. So one that's not sliding away, I don't want it to. 2 actually. 2 are going the opposite way. There's no way to do a radial slide for some reason. Alrighty. So I just have to do each in their whatever, man. going to change that to 3 cursor for a bit too. And I'm just going to rotate 5 degrees. So that way you can somewhere offset all of them. Slide back. Yeah. Notice by rotating it back with the cursor as the reference, tension here is a little bit better on the outside edge. But when you have the edge, it's going to be a flat spot otherwise, so. Sometimes it's a little tricky. I go quiet because I'm thinking of how I'm going to select this. What I'm trying to think of is how I can rotate these along and try to even up the thickness on that part for each impeller beam. So I'm going to do something like this. Can I unselect, like, no, it won't let me do that. Some programs you can actually deselect how will go vertex by vertex when you got the last row, but I guess Blender doesn't do that. So you gotta do it manually. So what I'm trying to do is just keep the thickness of the impeller beams really consistent, or where they are going to extrude from. You know what? I'm probably going to have to shift some vertices up. Yeah, in here, because you know what, they get too bunched up. I don't know if you can hear the background noise, but that's part of the reason why I've been making videos. It's like the stupid TV's on all the time in the rest of the house here. So it's like, makes it hard when I don't have my own space. Hey, it's better than living in my car. That's why, yeah. That's what it goes when you can't get a good job. Alright. Of course, you can donate to my Patreon or whatever. I don't know if there's a donate button here at YouTube yet. Might need to update that kind of stuff, but any little bit helps because I'm really pulling lead out of my pockets right now. It's terrible. Oh, but hey, if you think my videos are okay, you can do that. Oh, nearest noise. That's part of the problem. See, I'm working on this stuff. So, can I pause the recording? I'm going to pause my recording. And I'm back from an interruption on my end. Of course, I paused it, so hopefully it shouldn't bother you watching the video too much. Alright, so where was I? I was doing the impeller vanes, or the areas for the vanes, and there's going to be a hub section. And how do I want to do this? Okay, yeah, the impellers are going to go with the hub and the vanes and the impeller. So like this. I tried to maintain the thickness to some extent. So now we have 5 little vane pieces and the hub selected, so shouldn't be too much geometry on the back side. And we extrude it upwards, so and add A again. So, and my cat's bugging me too. Now, it was nicer when I had my own space and I could just do this quietly and not be interrupted by everything. So that's why I haven't been making videos in a while. Let me just kind of set up a profile like so. It's a little bit of tedious work, but you can see how the shape develops. Maybe tricks to do it even better. Something like that. And I usually do is I round out the volute part of that. That's going to be the trickier modeling thing to do. The impeller is pretty simple actually. So you're getting a pump impeller easy and so I'm actually thinking of doing this. That up there. It's the refrigerator. I don't know if you can hear it on the recording. So that's the impeller piece, and so. And let's see how this looks smoothed out. So. Yeah, subdivision surface. And super great, but not too awful either. I mean, this would work to some extent. So, let's call it good enough. And now I'm thinking of where I would want to put a bolt in on this thing. I'm going to get rid of those extra edges on the backside. They're not really needed here. So Just add the merge there and switch that to vertex. Should automatically merge those. Switch that to active like so. Okay, I didn't scale it off to. They should line right up, I believe. Yeah, cool, they do. Okay, but I was double checking anyways. Alright. The way I'm thinking of doing this is I'm going to have the backside index onto a bolt face. And since I know I did this as a multiple of 6, should be able to develop the angles here. And then the front side I'm going to inset a little bit, but I'm going to leave it round because when you seat the bolt here, it will, you know, you gotta thread the bolt in to get into it with the other side seated. So the idea is it's going to sit on a threaded shaft, and what you're going to do is you're going to have 2 bolts on each end. On the back side you're going to have 2 bolts, and then what you do is you tighten the one bolt against the other on the shaft, and the bolts will bind each other by doing that. And then you index the one bolt to the back side, which I will add an indentation. On the other side I'll leave cylindrical, and what that will do is basically it just allows you to thread the bolt in there without having it I can explain it. You'll see, I could probably just leave it flat even, but I don't know. I'll give a little indentation, not like a deep one, but let's see. I'll do and we can circularize this here. I have loop tools installed, so yeah, this is a little bit better, and so you know what's going on. Sure, no doubles. Okay, so he did weld as far as I can tell. Alright. Alright. Like so. So yeah, I'm going to have this indexed to a bolt shape. And that way it'll drive and you won't have to have a spliner or keying on the shaft. You can just use a locked bolt. And do the same with a little bit of indentation. Make it wider so the bolt can slide through here a bit. Recess and recess it in. That's not flat, is it? I guess not. Well, I can fix that real easy. Flat. So this is just going to recess a little bit and the bolt is sitting there slightly. And then you tighten it down to cinch it. And worry about facing it. Now I got to do this so it indexes to a bolt. Yeah. when you do this, you'll probably want to adjust your own scaling and stuff so it fits parts and actually goes to something metric. This is just eyeballing it, but the idea is pretty much the same. So how many edges do we side here? We have 30 and or 6. Okay. So I believe this will be 6 sides. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 6. And I wanted to go to active element. And that little white vertex there, at least in my setup, the active one will be white. And I'm going to scale it to that along an axis. So, yep. Actually, I want to do it 0 on that axis. So, see that it gets those flat, but those sides here are round. In some cases, you can kind of do an index like that. It actually works, but for a hex nut, we're not going to do it like that. So, you know what? This isn't quite I want 4. I probably wanted 5, but they don't. Oh yeah, I wanted 5. Control C. Let's fix that. Problem is they're going to line up the flat instead of the edge. Yuki. Here's another way to do that though. So I believe, yeah. Yeah, 5. And whatever, man. It'll work, I'm sure. Oh, now I gotta do the active again. Yeah, that's how I gotta do it. Alright. At least I know in alpha geometry I remember that stuff, so that's... Yeah. Because you gotta remember the multiples that you're using, and that's why it... See, so now I have the 2 flats. So it's 5. 5 faces, or 5 edges between it. Now I gotta rotate the rest of these too. And it's going to be a little bit more tricky. Here's another little trick in Blender, but I'm not sure if I can explain it well. But it's an alignment, and you need to have the magnet, and it does something with the A key, but it's hard to explain it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is pick this edge here and add a custom transform. And what I need is the edge that runs perpendicular to that, but with the custom transform you can actually select that direction. So it creates your own axis. So here it's global, that's like the default. So you hit the little plus key there. And now you get a new one, edge. So that's what I'm going to use. And I'll want to go back to active element here. And yeah. And opposite of that. I believe the orientation is right. I can go. Yeah, okay. But I can also do that same process again, add an edge. But normally, if you don't have this over previous checked like the very first time, it'll just make another edge. So you go like that. And yeah. See, it depends with the number. And that's how I'm getting the hex. Once you get the hex, it's a lot easier, see? Now that I've done that much, and the scaling is still to the active element, so that, and I am going to scale down by half. It usually gives a good relief there. So scaling these to the active element 0.5, bringing those corners in tighter. And I use the last one, and that becomes the active element automatically. Some other programs have better tricks for this, but the way Blender works, this is fine. And I am going to get interrupted again. Alright, hold on a sec. And back temporarily trying to record this. So you can see. That's what I was trying to do. Dang it. See what I gotta deal with. Yeah. Well. Hello again. Keep getting interrupted. So if you didn't hear, okay. So what I did is I fixed the circle here and aligned it up if the video didn't catch that. So just to get the hole for the bolt hole. This part isn't actually going to be threaded, it's going to sit over a bolt that is threaded. Just so you know, but the hole for the... And you can adjust this it's needed. So what I'm going to do is extrude that into it. Like I said, this is going to be what it keys onto is the bolt. So I'm thinking the dryer shaft is going to be threaded in this case. So we extrude this inward like so. You might want to think of how deep the bolt is going to sit in there too. Like have a slight bit of the bolt sticking out when it meets up against another bolt, just so. Or you could have a washer between the two. It's just the tension between the two bolts that's locking in there. But anyhow, a little bit of it sticking out is probably better, because in that way you'll be sure it won't push back on the other part. Hard to explain. I think that will be deep enough. That's what it's going to key onto, is that. So instead of a spline or something funny like that, so like that, and what I'm going to do is, oops, set here, make sure edge rail's turned on in that part. I'm doing this. And what I'm thinking of doing is I'm going to knife tool here, across there. Hold on a sec. I'll just give it a nice little control edge on there. And these little edges here I don't need. Actually, I didn't really need to do that. I know what I did is trying to think here. Oh, that's if I wanted to simplify it. In this case, I don't want to do that. Oh, so here's a certain flow that I need to have. And do that. Yeah, I can do that. I can just do it like this. And yeah. So you saw me goof up. Do that sometimes. You know what? I can get that turned on. Okay, so I have that bolt hole face thing going on here, and a little bit there, like so, and snap that to there, and doesn't seem to count. This one has 35 edges, and this one has 35. Why is it? I don't know. Must be an alignment issue or something. should be straight edges. Anyhow, I'm getting diagonals where I don't really need them. I don't know why. It says they're both 35. This is being stupid. Alright. So what I'm going to do is clean this up, and I'm going to pause it while I clean it up. So, save you watching all that. Hold on a sec. Turned out I had 35 and 30, so I had to do a little bit more complicated cleanup there. But it should be okay now, so I'm going to extrude this line up. Now I should be able to bridge it and have a consistent hole going through. Yeah, so that's what I wanted it to do. I just had an edge count that was off still. But I fixed it. Here's your impeller piece for a centrifugal type pump. And you know what? I didn't do the... This one is non-directional or barely directional because these don't have the finger scope. But in some cases, it's actually better to have these things curved because they'll sling and the flow. Something to do with pressure and all that, but they have an offset angle. So I'm going to see if I can do that on this end. What I'm going to do is select these faces here. We'll put that twist on there before we call it done. So do is go to proportional editing, connected, RZ, and something like this. Depending on which way you want it to turn. You can see it's getting smooth. Sometimes it helps to change this too, so we might want linear or inverse square. I think I'll go with linear though. Linear usually works for stuff like this. And as you can see, it's skewing all the other edges around a bit. Sometimes it might affect the hex on the other side, so. But it doesn't seem to be skewing it offset too bad, so I can probably get away with this RZ. And another interruption, yay. Alright. So where was I again? Just double checking on the back side, I guess. And nothing looks too wonky on the deforms. Things still fairly rounded. He's got scrunched up a little bit. Let's see how it looks in Smooth Previewer. Let's turn this on. A little bit of compression there, but there are ways to fix this still, but it takes a while. And I already took long enough doing this as it is. So that's basically how you model an impeller in Blender, and you can see the veins for each part are pretty much an even thickness, is what you'd want when 3D printing stuff like this. And this gives it a directional, so it would spin counterclockwise in this case. And if you wanted to make one in the opposite direction, you could just mirror it or scale it like -1. And of course that flips it, but on maybe on the x-axis or something. But see, you can flip it over. So it doesn't matter. There are ways to change it and make a mirrored object, basically, so you can have it go the other way. So it would be spinning around this way, and or ours, it would spin like that. So when you're pumping, it would sling the water out. Here's your impeller. sorry about the interruptions, but that's what I gotta deal with, and that's why I haven't been making too many videos. But now, so I'm going to save the recording. I'm going to pause this one last time, and it is going to save. Yeah, and happy Thanksgiving to anyone watching. So that's how you make the impeller. Alright.